So yes, settle down onto your backs. And to start with, you can have your legs long or your knees bent. So whichever you prefer. And maybe have a couple of big sighing breaths to just let yourself settle and arrive. Oh, there we go. Here's Nicola joining us. So, hi, Nicola. When you arrive, we're starting lying down. Okay. I can't hear you, but that's fine. Don't worry. Yes, just lie down onto your back, however's most comfortable. And yes, so I said a couple of big sighing breaths once you're lying down. And then we're just going to do some little familiar movements on our backs. So really with the intention of undoing, releasing tension, settling down. So the first thing I'd like you to do once you've settled on your back and you've had a couple of big sighing breaths is to then just start to let your head roll a little bit to the right and a little bit to the left. Hi, Rosie. We're just lying down. Lovely. So I appreciate that. So yes, lying down, letting the head roll to the right and to the left. So we're doing a few little lying down twisty things to start with. And so I think again, just noticing as you let your head roll to the right and to the left, how does your neck feel? And also letting your shoulders rest down on the ground. So, you know, some of you, Emma, I know you're doing a lot of time on the computer at the moment. Ruth, you tend to be a bit stiff in your shoulders. So just as much as possible, letting the shoulders settle and soften. And then from rolling your head from side to side, find a comfortable place where you can settle the center of the back of your head on the floor. And if your legs are long, you're going to bend your knees and bring your feet to stand on the floor. Then you're going to start to let your knees tilt a little bit to the right and a little bit to the left. So this is a very familiar movement for all of us. Just that's it, letting the knees tilt from side to side and going easy with this. I mean, if it feels really easy and comfortable, of course you can do as big a movement as you like. But if you're feeling at all sort of creaky or stiff around your lower back or just a little bit vulnerable, then you might just want to keep the movement small on your bed. Good. So maybe just once, twice more to each side. And then settle down. You can keep your knees bent, or if you're comfortable lengthening your legs out, it might be quite good to do that, because we're going to move a little bit in the upper body. And then if your legs are long, you don't have to worry about, you know, the legs getting involved. So you're going to then bring your arms up towards the ceiling over your chest and touch your palms together in prayer pose. So we've done this movement in recent weeks. We make this triangle with our arms, and then we start to rock our triangle to the right and to the left. So we keep our elbows straight, that's it, and the hands stuck together. And we're rocking our weight side to side across the back of the shoulders. So your weight shifts towards the back of your right shoulder and then the back of your left shoulder. And you let your head move with your arms. So just do that a few more times. It's really great, Ruth. I can see you. It's very, very nice, rather than just your wall. So very nice to see you. Good. So a couple more times, if that's okay. Let your arms rock to the right and to the left. Lovely. And just also notice, how does this feel across the upper back? And when I was doing it earlier today, I was thinking, oh yes, I feel a little bit stiff there. And then let your arms come down to rest. We'll come back to this in a little bit. So let the arms come to rest on the floor. And now you're going to bend your knees and stand your feet on the floor. And then I'd like you to take your right leg and cross your right leg over your left leg. So you're crossing, slide it over a bit further, Nicola. So you're crossing your knees rather than your ankle on your thigh. That's it, you're crossing your knees. So you've got your right leg crossed over your left leg. And then you're going to start to rock side to side on the foot. It's the left foot that's still on the floor. So start to rock side to side on that left foot. Let your knees tilt to the right and to the left. And so when we cross our knees like this, the whole of our pelvis and our legs sort of moves more as a unit than when the legs are not crossed. So just see how it feels and go only as far as is comfortable. That's nice. So perhaps 2 or 3 more times, side to side. And then pause in the middle and change the cross of your legs. So put your left leg on top. Exactly, that's it, good. And then do the same rocking with your left leg on top, letting your knees tilt to the right and to the left. And again, just going as far as is comfortable. Good. Side to side, letting the knees tilt in one direction and then the other direction. And then in your own time, you can pause this movement. You're going to uncross your legs. You're going to lengthen your legs on the floor if that's comfortable. It might be quite nice to lengthen them out, give your knees a little bounce or roll the legs. We'll just let them be long for a moment. Good. And then in your own time, you're going to revisit bringing your arms into the triangle. And so coming back to that's it, reaching your arms up towards the ceiling, touching your hands together. Come back to rocking from side to side. That's really nice. Lovely. Good. And again, see how this feels across the upper back. That's nice. And as you're rocking from side to side, if you do feel a bit tight or it's a bit achy or, you know, tender across your upper back, then just imagine that your upper back is soft and malleable. Good. That's nice. So a couple more times to the right and to the left. And then let your arms come to rest down by your sides. Or your hands on the front of your body if you like, so whatever you prefer. And let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. Feel the length of your body on the ground. That's very nice, from the back of your head to your heels. And then from here, one last time, you can bend your knees and bring your feet to stand on the floor and come to tilt your knees to the right and to the left. So this is without your legs crossed now. That's it. So back to our first movement. Yeah, lovely. And see how that feels. Really nice. Good. So you can carry on tilting your knees from side to side. And from here, we're then going to be folding our knees into our chest. And you can do a little bit of rocking, holding around the top of your knees. And what we're going to do from here is 3 times with the buzzing breath. We're going to take our legs up towards the ceiling and arms as well, if you like. Give them a shake out and then come back down, sort of gather back into this place where your knees are folded in. So this is our sort of place we come back to. So with your knees folded in towards you, let a breath come in. And then with the buzz, your limbs go up towards the ceiling for a shake. Folding back in. letting a breath come in. Last time, folding your knees into your chest, letting the breath come in, and then one last time, arms and legs up, buzzing. Then you can fold your knees back in towards your chest. And what you're going to do in your own time, and there's no rush, is to make your way over onto hands and knees. And when you're ready, you're going to come into dog pose. So, actually, I wouldn't even say that, but it might involve taking your socks off. It might not. The light looks okay here for the moment, doesn't it? So hands and knees, tucking your toes under. And when you're ready, no great rush. Lengthening your legs out into dog pose, and yeah, sort of see how it feels. Yeah, when you're ready to come into a dog pose. Good. Very nice. You're just going to do a sort of easy dog pose, see how it feels, bending your knees as much as you like. And from dog, you're then going to fold down into child pose. And that might be when you arrive over into hands and knees a little bit more. So Casper's now decided to come sit on my mat. So Rosie, Casper the cat was yesterday let out of the loft after 2 weeks of yes, being incarcerated. He's still rather suspicious. Every time I touch him, I'm going to stick something in his eye. So yes, having a few breaths. You're not teaching the class. So having a few breaths in child pose. Yes. And then coming on to hands and knees in your own time. And also, like many of us from Casper's had his own lockdown. He has put on some pounds. I sort of feel like I've put on some pounds from being ill, and he's put on some pounds from being stuck in the loft. So on hands and knees, you're going to come to some cat movements most appropriately. So when you've settled yourself on hands and knees, come to rounding your back to the ceiling and dipping your spine down to the floor. And see how these movements feel today. And just use them in a way that feels helpful for you right now. So let the spine dip down. Let your back round up towards the ceiling. And you can also add in some of your tail wagging movements as well. So imagining you've got a tail wagging your tail from side to side. And the ones I'm quite keen on again at the moment, these little fishes where you then swing your lower legs from side to side. That takes your pelvis with it, so you can do some of those as well. So that's it. So yeah, a bit of cat, a bit of tail wagging, and then maybe a little bit more cat. And then we'll come back for a couple more breaths in child pose before we move up into standing. So come back into cat, perhaps rounding your back, dipping your spine down. And let's see, from a rounded up cat, so from rounding your back to the ceiling, rock your hips back over your heels, come into child pose, or again, if you prefer, you could always be in kneeling. And feeling the breath within you for perhaps 2 or 3 cycles of breath, feeling your breath come in, feeling your breath leaving you. And then in your own time, you're going to be coming back, another dog pose, walking your hands from dog into a forward bend, rolling up into standing. So again, when you're ready, come back, big handprints on the floor, tucking your toes under. Again, if your shoulders are feeling tight, Ruth or anyone else, take your hands quite wide apart. Rock your hips back over your heels. Think about this resting down. Can we rest through the arms rather than get too pushy the arms? So big handprints on the floor, letting the shoulders soften. Maybe some big exhalations in dog. Knees bent, of course. And then again, stay in dog as long as you like. And then from your dog, you're going to be walking your hands in towards your feet into a forward bend. So all of your weight arriving in your feet. That's it. And you could bend your knees a little bit or a lot. You might want to rest your elbows on your thighs, depending if your back needs a bit of support. And let your head go. And then on an exhalation, you can roll up into standing or walk your hands up the fronts of your thighs. And we'll arrive in standing. So, first of all, let's just take a moment to feel ourselves in standing. So maybe look down at your feet. I'll try and block out that light that's right behind my head. Look down at your feet and just feel yourself. Give your arms a little shake. And maybe for a moment, close your eyes and see if you can have a sense of yourself in standing, feeling your footprints on the floor, feeling your arms hanging, your head balancing on the top of your spine. And then we're going to do sort of loose swinging twist where we swing our arms, slap the hands onto our body. Good. So just let the whole of your body come along with this movement. And we're going to mainly focus on a few standing balances today in this sort of standing section of the class. And we're going to start quite simply and then make things a little bit more complicated. So a couple more times, not too complicated though, because it is Thursday evening. A couple more times, swing your arms, slap them on the sides of your body. Okay. And then let that go and settle your feet back down again, little distance between them, and bring your hands into prayer pose. We're going to use prayer pose a little bit as a sort of to help us settle and gather into our centre. So it's quite helpful to have the thumbs resting on the breastbone. And then what I'd like you to do here is perhaps, let's see, just a little bit of closing your eyes and shifting your weight and just decide which foot you'd like to try standing on first. Once you've decided which foot you'd like to try standing on first, open your eyes, and then all we're going to do is shift our weight onto that chosen foot and bring the other foot to stand on it. So you're not doing anything fancy with your feet, that's it, good. You're just bringing one foot to stand on the other and then seeing how that feels. And can you settle? And of course, your standing foot on the floor is maybe, all the time, perhaps wobbling a little bit. It's adjusting to stabilize the weight of your body. Yes, we might sort of come out of our balance for a moment and come back in, and that's fine. Let your shoulders drop. Good. Make sure you're not holding your breath. Okay. We'll come down in a moment. Yeah, so maybe release your arms, give your feet a little shake out. And then we'll try the other side. So settle your feet back down again. Bring your hands into prayer pose. Just take a moment and then start to shift your weight onto your other foot. So coming up onto the ball of the foot we just stood on, and then we'll bring that foot to stand on the other foot. And so seeing how it feels. And all the time with that intention to sort of soften our shoulders, to soften our face, to feel the flow of our breath through us. And also to, to as much as possible to steady ourselves on our foot, our standing foot. It's not always easy. Good. So we'll just have another breath or two on this side. Very good. And then come down and have a little bit of shake out. Now, we're going to do another little, I suppose, we're going to do this sort of little sequence where we do these sort of mini balances. And maybe I'll just remind you of, just thinking it was better to go side on. So we're going to slide our foot back behind us, and then we'll bring the foot into a little tree pose, and then we'll trace around our foot and we'll cross our knees and bend our standing knee into that sort of little mini balance sequence. So you're going to come back to standing on the foot that you first stood on, and you're also going to have your hands in prayer pose again, just really to sort of take the hands out of the equation so you don't have to worry about them. So starting here, hands in prayer pose, shifting your weight onto your first foot, and then you're going to slide the other foot back behind you and flip onto the top of your toes. Go sideways on through. So flip onto the top of the toes behind you. You can see what it's like to straighten that back knee, as long as that doesn't make your foot cramp too much. See how that feels? Good. And then slide your foot back in and just let your knee turn out a little bit so you can bring your foot onto your ankle in a mini tree pose. Good. And have a breath or two here in your mini tree pose. Lovely. You have some toes on the floor if you like. And then I would definitely bring a couple of toes on the floor, because what we're then going to do is bend the standing knee. So we're coming into this one where we cross the top leg over. So a bit like when we're on our backs. And our standing knee is bent. And it's often easier to balance on a standing knee if we look down slightly more than we would for other balances. But you're trying to feel that your shoulders stay over your hips rather than the shoulders leaning forwards. Very nice. Good. Good. That's it. Brilliant. Okay. And let's come down. So when we do a little sequence of balance, it's very interesting, because maybe it's a bit easier because we've got more to focus on, but then maybe our leg gets more tired as well. So let's try the other side. So bring your hands back into prayer pose. You're going to shift your weight onto the second foot now. Come up onto the ball of the foot you just stood on, and then slide that foot back behind you and flip onto the top of your toes. Good. And you can see what it's like to straighten that back knee. Might sort of, sometimes it makes my foot cramp a bit. And then slide your foot back in. Let your knee turn out to the side. So you're coming into a little mini tree pose. Maybe with some toes on the floor, maybe not. That's up to you. Good. Drop your shoulders down away from your ears. Lovely. And then bring your toes to the floor if you like, and bend your standing knee. So then we can come on to this sort of crossing our raised leg over the bent standing knee. It's a little bit like we're sort of sitting down. Our leg becomes almost like a stool that we're sitting down on. We're trying to let our tailbone drop and our shoulders drop. Good. Very nice. Lovely. Well done. Yes, and do come out then and have a little shake out. So let's come down now. We're going to come down into a forward bend. And if you like, you can take your forward bend down into a squat, which might be quite nice for the lower back before we come on and do a little bit more in standing. So again, feet a little distance apart. Start to move forwards. Let your head come forwards. Let your arms hang. Let the weight of the arms help to take you forwards. Bending your knees as much as you like in your forward bend. And then obviously if you're moving on into a squat, of course you can put something under your heels if you like. Or you can let your heels come up. It's fine. So it's just that movement sort of carrying on our forward bend, bending the knees more so that we let our pelvis drop down. And then the lower back really lengthens out through the weight of the pelvis. And then we have to reverse that movement. So if you've got something under your heels, at this point, I would then take it out so that you can then start to send your heels down as you send your sit bones up. So you come back into your forward bend, and definitely at this point, take whatever's under your heels out. because being in the forward bend is all about rooting down through the heels. And then we can roll all the way back up into standing and have a little bit of a shake out. And then actually, before we do any more balancing, so we have got a couple more balances to do, take your feet a bit wider apart. So you could take your feet as wide as the narrow edge of your mat. Yeah, so a bit wider apart. And we're going to do these side lengthening movements. So you can move from side to side. So your bottom arm is heavy and floppy. As you reach up and over, you give away the bottom arm. You shift your pelvis towards the raised arm side if you like. Good. Maybe once more on each side. I'm just going to check the heating here. I think one of the children may have turned it on and it's really boiling. What you're going to do from here is you're then going to go into a forward bend with your feet this wider distance apart. And in your forward bend, you can either have both knees bent, or you could do a little bit of shifting your weight from side to side, bending one knee and then bending the other. So yeah, that's it. So you can either just be folding forwards in a forward bend, or you could be shifting your weight from side to side when you've gone forwards. So in your forward bend with your feet just a little wider apart. Weight sinking down into your heels. Good. Okay. Dear, I seem to have lost Sam. She'll return. Okay, and then that's it. Yes, sink into your heels, roll back up into standing. Okay, so we're going to come back to tree pose, and we're going to be, so I'm just going to talk you through the hand things, because I think, well, what we'll do is we're going to start with our hands in prayer pose. This is before we have to balance, just hands in prayer pose. Then we'll take our arms up, and when we've taken our arms up, we're going to touch our thumb to a finger, it doesn't matter which, or the nail of your finger. And then from there, we'll take our arms wide. So we've got the mudra still, the thumb and the finger touching. And then finally, we'll finish crossing our wrists in front of our chest, okay? Okay, I will talk you through all of these. And you don't have to do all those different things. And if you're not feeling that steady, it might not be the best idea. You might just want to stay quietly in prayer pose. So coming back into tree pose, you could have your foot on your ankle again, or you could take your foot a little bit higher up your thigh. So sometimes the heel just above the knee is quite good, or sometimes bringing your your heel right up onto the top of your thigh. And then start off gathering your hands into prayer pose. And just see how steady you feel. You know, find your breathing, have a couple of breaths. And then from here, you would take your arms on and up into tree pose. I'm just going to let Sam in. So breathing in tree pose with your arms up, and then touching your thumb to one of your fingers. It could be to the pad of the finger, or it could be to the nail of the finger. So we're in tree pose, Sam. Nice to have you back. And then take your arms wide and turn your palms upwards. And Sam, we've got the thumb touched to a finger. So we've got our hands in a mudra. And then the final finishing position is to then cross your wrists in front of your chest and soften your fingers, but keep the thumb and the finger touching, whichever finger it's touching. Good. Very nice. Lovely. Yes, do come down and have a little shake out. So Sam, Sam, what we were doing is tree pose with hands in prayer pose, taking the arms up, touching a thumb to one of the fingers to create a mudra. bringing the arms wide, crossing the wrists in front of the chest. If you're feeling steady, you don't have to do all of those things. But yeah, I mean, I often find that sort of having a few more things to do with the arms and hands helps me to feel a bit steadier. It keeps the mind focused. So let's try the second side of tree pose. And again, remember, you can have your foot wherever you want. Ankle, heel just above your knee, higher up on your thigh. And obviously, you know, one of the challenges in tree is to keep our foot on our inner leg. We've got to press the heel onto the inside of the leg to keep it there. And when we feel steady, the arms can float up. We can drop the shoulders. We can see what finger do we want to touch our thumb to. It doesn't have to be the same as last time. Good. And then from the arms being up, what's it like taking the arms wide? Turning the palms up towards the ceiling, letting the shoulders drop. And then from there, crossing the wrists in front of the chest and softening the fingers, but keeping the thumb touched to one of the fingertips or nails. Very nice. Good. Yes, and then coming back down and having a shake out. So we've got one more balance to do, but again, before we do that, I'd like you to come down through a forward bend and on into a squat again, if you'd like to do a squat. So if you'd like to come into a squat and you want to have something under your heels, have it nearby. You probably want to have a little bit of time in the forward bend without something under your heels, because otherwise it makes you feel that you're sort of being thrown forwards onto your nose. So rolling down into your forward bend, and then again, if you want to come down into your squat and have a few breaths in your squats. Obviously really good for the health of our ankles and our knees and our feet coming into a squat, also for our lower backs. And then if you have got something under your heels, you're going to remove it before you come back up. So your weight might come forwards onto the balls of your toes, fingertips on the floor, starting to send your heels down and your sit bones up, back into your forward bend, and then rolling back up into standing. Good. And yes, when you arrive in standing, have a little shake out. Well done, good squats, everyone. And when you arrive back in the standing, settle yourself down with your feet a little distance apart and your hands touching in front of you in prayer pose. And just take a moment to feel yourself in standing like we did when we first came into standing. So perhaps closing your eyes, feeling the contact of your feet on the floor, feeling the contact of your hands in prayer pose, Anjali Mudra, feeling the movement of your breath within you. And then here you're going to open your eyes, you're going to let a breath come in, and as you exhale, you're going to take your arms down and then up. Let a breath come in and then start to swing your arms, crossing them in front of you. That's it. Good. And then from here, we're going to swing our arms. So we give ourselves a hug with the right arm on top. And then drop your shoulders down away from your ears. Have a breath or two here, and then we'll come on into our eagle arms. Yeah. And then what I'm going to suggest here is I was just going to suggest you don't have to do what I said. It doesn't really matter which arm you have on top and which leg on top. We're going to be bending our knees and coming into our eagle balance. And I was going to suggest you stand on your right foot, but you don't have to. Okay? So bending the knees like we did earlier, shifting your weight into your right foot, crossing your left leg over. And you can tuck your raised foot, your left foot, around the back of your right leg if you like, or you can just let the leg hang, or you could even have your big toe on the floor. Let your gaze come down a little bit to help your knee feel more comfortable. And just see if you can settle here, shoulders over your hips. Breathing, particularly thinking about releasing the shoulders. And then do come out when you've had enough. A bit of a shake out. Yeah, so I was mainly just sort of saying which arm and which leg to have on top so you don't have to think about it too much. So come back to, when you've had a little shake out, come back to having your hands in prayer pose in front of your chest. Settling your feet on the floor. You're just taking a quiet moment to gather your attention into your breathing. Letting a breath come in as you exhale, take your arms down and then up. Let a breath come in, drop your shoulders away from your ears and then swing your arms. That's it, very nice. And then from here, you're going to swing your arms all the way into giving yourself a hug with your left arm on top. That's it, great. So left arm on top, drop your shoulders down away from your ears and then come on into your eagle arms. And so in eagle arms, if it's possible, you're letting your, really letting the shoulders drop and you're moving your elbows forwards a little bit away from your chest. And we're going to bend the knees again. So bend the knees, your gaze maybe comes down a bit to help with that. Keeping your shoulders back over your heels, shifting now your weight onto your left foot, crossing your right leg over. And just remember those options you've got for the right foot. Your big toe could come onto the floor if you feel a bit unsteady. The foot could just hang, or it could wrap around the back of the standing leg, calf or ankle. Breathing, dropping the shoulders, moving the elbows forwards, if that's possible. And then yes, do come out. Yeah, come out. Shaking out of arms and legs. So we're just going to do, before we come out of standing, maybe just one last time visiting standing, both feet on the floor a little distance apart, just as we did when we first came into standing, closing our eyes, feeling ourselves in standing, feet on the floor, head balancing on the top of the spine. Feeling a breath come in, feeling a breath leave you. And then open your eyes one last time, come to sort of letting everything go, sort of loose, swinging twist, slapping your arms onto your body if you like. And we're going to be in a moment making our way down onto hands and knees. And we're going to do actually a few things we haven't done for a little while. You may possibly need some cushions. I can see cushions in most people's rooms. Cushions or pillows. Yeah, they're useful. We've got all this stuff. So we're going to come towards the back of the mat. And let's make our way down through a forward bend. This is right. Yes. A forward bend, dog pose, and then stepping into a lunge. So at the back of your mat, rolling down into a forward bend. You don't have to rush through any of these. In fact, don't rush through any of these. So forward bend. Have a good couple of breaths in your forward bend. Seeing how it feels now. And then from your forward bend, walking your hands forwards into dog pose. And see how your dog pose feels now, having spent quite a bit of time in standing. You can bend one knee, you can bend the other. Exhaling, giving away your head. And it's up to you. I think most of you will probably be happy to, from dog pose, happy to step one foot forwards into lunge. We're going to do both sides, so it doesn't matter which. So stepping one foot forwards and coming down into lunge. So we are going to be thinking now about some movements where we're opening out through the front of the body. And also then some, I suppose, counter poses for these movements. So lunge is obviously the sort of preparation as well as one of these movements. So have a few more breaths in this side of lunge. And whenever you're ready, you can swap sides for your lunge. You could go back into dog pose to swap sides and lunge, or you could do it from hands and knees. So it depends whether you feel like doing another dog pose. Yeah. So you can step back into dog, have a couple of breaths in dog. When you're ready, you can step the other foot forwards. And then see how it feels to be in lunge on side 2. Giving the weight of your pelvis down to the floor. So how does it feel to have that feeling of opening through the front of the body? So particularly in lunge, it's the front of the pelvis, the front of the hip flexor, the front of your thigh. So where we're going to come to from now, and it's up to you, if you'd like to do another dog pose, you can do, but where we're going to come to from this lunge is sitting into kneeling. So you can come straight on into kneeling. And it might be that to be comfortable in kneeling, you need a cushion. Some of you I know are very happy kneeling, so you might need a cushion under the tops of your feet, or you might need a cushion in between your heels and your bottom. You might be perfectly happy in kneeling. And so what we're going to do from kneeling is see how it feels to go into, so kneeling we call vajrasana, lightning bolt pose, and this is like supta. So when we go back, how is it to lean back from kneeling? And as you can see, I can't go very far. As soon as I start to go back, I get this big stretch through my quads. And I'm thinking I haven't even been doing any running, but yeah. So it's this sort of leaning back from kneeling, trying to keep quiet through the front of the body. So we're not really trying to arch our lower back. We're trying to look down at the belly, keep sort of quiet here, feel the stretch through the quads for another breath or two, and soften the shoulders. I know these are a bit challenging for the shoulders. And then from here, we'll come forwards, and there's a few things we could do to stretch the legs out the other way. So we could come to hands and knees, lengthen one leg out behind us, and then do the same on the other side. And then we could take this on into plank pose, which would just be doing the same thing with both legs together. So shoulders over your wrists, you can lengthen one leg back, add the other leg in, come into plank pose. Good, really stretch back through your heels, feel the shoulders anchored over the wrists. Good. Okay. We're going to come back down now. We're going to come into kneeling again, but this time I'd like you to sit down in between your heels. So again, it might be, if this isn't one that comes so easily to you, you might need to sit on a cushion or even a cushion folded in half. Yeah. So virasana, hero pose. And so this is one that I haven't probably taught that much on Zoom. But it is one that I do a lot, and particularly if you are doing any running, it's your cycling, Ruth, it is very good. So you've got to have a little bit of a wiggle. So you're sitting down, you're not holding yourself up waiting for it to be over. It's a really good stretch for the front of the ankles as well. And of course, exactly, we can go back in this one. So in this one, even more so, I think, than the last one, you've got to think about tucking your pelvis under, your tailbone under. So as you go back, you keep sort of quiet through here, you keep long in your lower back. Good. So it's that, I think I've said to you, some of you before, it's like you want to be like a saggy deck chair here. Yeah? So that's the feeling. We won't stay here too long. You'll be relieved to hear. Okay, so this one is, let's maybe do this one twice. Let's come out and do something else and then come back into it. So one of the things that's quite nice to do in between virasana is to do fox pose. So from hands and knees, where we lengthen one leg back behind us and then the opposite arm forwards. And if you stretch into your heel, it's going to be nice in your ankles to feel quite different. You're moving your ankles in the opposite way to virasana. So you can do that on one side and then you can swap sides. And again, feel that you're really stretching your heel back behind you, reaching forwards with your fingertips. Good. And then if you can bear it, revisit virasana again. So sit back down in between your heels. So again, have a little sort of nestle down. So I often think about this as, I think about being a bird settling into my nest. So my legs are the nest and then the rest of me is the bird. And then again, what's it like to go back a little bit? Yes, exactly. Well done. I can see some nice pelvis tucking under going on. So we've still got this feeling that the lower back stays long. And what we're mainly feeling is this delightful stretch through the fronts of our thighs. Now, while you're having another breath or two there, I'll just show you what you could do when you come out of this, so you can see. Is I was playing around with this morning, and it was quite nice on your forearms to do this sort of lengthening one leg up, but rather than the leg going straight back, the leg goes more up towards the ceiling. This was just something I was playing around with today. So when you come out of virasana, you could try this if you like. So you're on your forearms and you're raising one leg, but it just might be that the leg goes a bit higher up. And again, you're really reaching back into your heel. So this was just, a little bit of me playing around today. But I quite liked it. And you do that on both sides, obviously. And then we have one final thing where we're stretching through the fronts of our thighs. Looks very nice, everyone. So we're coming back into kneeling. And I'm grabbing a couple of blocks because we're going to be doing this way into sort of like a mini camel pose, but you need to be able to have your fingertips on the floor or your knuckles. So if your hands don't reach the floor, you might need to have a book under each hand. Yeah? So from kneeling, what we do is we press down into the tops of our feet and we send our hips forwards and up. And I think in this one, it's quite good to do this a few times. Yeah? And yeah, I don't find this one easy. I have done this a few times already today, which is why it might be looking like I'm finding it easier than I actually do. So if you're someone who finds this really easy, you could, from here, then walk your hands forwards onto your heels. But that's only if you find it very easy. Otherwise, just repeat it a few times. So that's it, pelvis up and forwards. And you can walk your hands forwards onto your heels if you like. Good. That's quite warming. So after that one, I think it might be nice to do something to lengthen out our lower backs. So what I'm suggesting, yes, if you want to do a bit more camel, you can do. What I'm suggesting is lengthen your legs out behind you. And then from hands and knees, tuck your toes under and rock yourself back into one last squat. Because, yeah, camel pose can be quite intense on the lower back. So it could be nice to have a little lengthen out in the squat. In your squat. Good. And then from your squat, you can roll forwards again onto hands and knees. And then you're going to lie down onto your belly. And just rest however is comfortable. So I think maybe I've got one hand on top of the other and the side of my head on the back of my hands. You can give your pelvis a little bit of a wiggle. Just see how it feels to lie on the belly. We've done quite a lot to open out through the front of the pelvis and the quads, so it might feel reasonably comfortable even if you don't usually like it. You could do a little bit of the one where you take the soles of your feet to the ceiling and you let your feet tilt from side to side. I think we did this last Thursday. We do this one quite a lot. So lying on your belly, bending your knees, taking the soles of your feet to the ceiling, tilting your feet to the right and to the left. And then let your legs come down onto the ground. And you might want to just slide your hands forwards a bit. So you've got your forehead on the floor and you've got your arms in sort of a big circle around your head. So you've got maybe one arm either side of your head. And I'd like you a few times to see how it feels to sink down into your forearms and lift your head off the ground, trying to feel the muscles in the upper back are getting involved. So these little lifting movements. So we exhale, we sink into the forearms and the elbows and we lift the head. The chest probably lifts a little bit as well. Maybe just do that, that's it. Do that one a couple more times. That's nice. And then from being on your belly, you're going to roll over onto your back. And when you arrive on your back, just do what does your body feel it would like to do when you get onto your back. So yeah, so when we arrive on our back, it might be that we feel we want to lie with our legs long. We might like to bend our knees and stand our feet on the floor. We might like to fold our knees into our chest. These are all good options. You can do any of them you like. And we're not quite time to go to sleep yet. We're going to do, I thought we would finish with some things where we take our legs up towards the ceiling and we're going to use our buzzing breath again. So when you've done whatever it is you want to do on your backs, then organize yourself so you're lying with your knees bent and your feet standing on the floor. And then you're going to fold your right knee into your chest. That's it. And just have a breath or two holding around the top of your right knee and letting the weight of that leg settle down towards your chest without you having to pull it. And then what we're going to do is lengthen that right leg up towards the ceiling. And you're going to hold, it's hold however works for you on your leg. It could be interlinking your fingers around the back of your thigh. You might want to hold your calf. Some of you might hold your big toe. You can give your leg a little shake out. And then we're going to have a cycle of buzzing breath here. And as we exhale with the buzz, we can extend into the heel. So let a breath come in. And then fold that knee back into your chest. So you've got your right knee folded into your chest again. And you're then going to lengthen your left leg out on the ground. And we're going to have a buzzing breath here and think about extending into the left heel, the heel that's on the ground. So let your breath come in. And at the end of that buzz, just let that left leg really go, maybe roll it a little bit. And then we're going to extend the right leg up towards the ceiling again. So again, holding onto your right leg somehow, around the back of the thigh or the calf or the big toe. And we'll have one more buzzing breath here. Maybe give your leg a little shake out first. So let a breath come in. And then gently lower your right leg using your hands and lengthen it out on the floor. So for a moment, you're lying with both legs long. You can give them a little roll on the floor. Good. Very nice. And then you're going to bend both knees and stand both feet on the floor. And we're going to do that little sequence on the other side. So when you're ready, you're going to fold your left knee in towards your chest. So you've folded your left knee in towards your chest. You're having a couple of breaths there, just letting the weight of the legs settle down onto your body. And then we'll lengthen that leg up towards the ceiling. We'll hold the leg, however is comfortable. And we'll have a buzzing breath here. Maybe if it's comfortable, extending into your heel as you buzz. So breathing in. Good, and then fold that left knee back in towards your chest and lengthen your right leg out on the floor. And we'll have another buzzing breath. You could give your leg a little bit of a roll first of all, but then we'll have another buzzing breath. And as you buzz again, you can stretch into your heel. So let your breath come in. And then let that left leg go. You might roll it or bounce it. And then that's it. Lengthen the let the right leg, the leg that's on the ground, go. Lengthen the left leg up towards the ceiling. Alternate left and right. Holding onto your left leg, letting your breath come in for one last buzzing breath. Lovely. And then slowly lower that leg down to the ground. Use your hands. That's it. Lie with both legs long for a moment. Give your legs a little roll or a bounce on the floor. Let a breath come in. Let a breath leave you. And then just before we settle down quietly, you're going to bend your knees, stand your feet on the floor. To come back to the very first movements we did, maybe first of all letting your head roll a little bit to the right and to the left, then letting your knees tilt to the right and to the left. And you can do the two things together if you like. So it might be that you roll your head in the same direction as your knees or the opposite direction. Just sort of decide whatever you would like to do. And then from here, we'll be settling down quietly. So any socks or blankets or warm things that you'd like. And again, of course, you can lie however you like. Lie however you like with your legs long or your knees bent. It's nice to make sure your lighting is not too bright at this point. Letting your body settle down onto the ground. So however you're lying, you start with this sense of the length of your body on the ground. So if your legs are long, you've got the sense from the back of your head all the way down to the back of your heels. And if your knees are bent, your awareness is from the back of your head down to your footprints. And letting the back of the body settle down onto the ground. As you let the front of your body soften, your hands can be resting on your belly or by your side. So maybe this awareness of softening in the front of the body starts with the movement of the breath somewhere in our center. So we feel the gentle rise and fall of the belly or the ribs as we breathe in and out. We let the belly soften. We let the chest soften. We can take that softening into our face and our jaw, our lips and our tongue. We can take our awareness to the point between our eyebrows and imagine that place softening, the space between the eyebrows growing wider. And the skin of the whole of the face smoothing and softening. I'm just going to let you have maybe one more quiet minute, and then I shall ring the bowl 3 times. So thank you very much, everyone.